How's everybody doing? And welcome to Horror and Stuff. And today we're going to be going over my ranking for every 2023 released horror film that I saw this year. And there's 69 of them, if you know what I mean. There's quite a few that I actually didn't get to this year, but there's only about 5 semi-major releases that I really decided it's almost the end of the year. I 100% know that these are not going to be in my personal top 10, so I decided, you know what, I'm not going to watch them. And just to give you a little idea, just in case you're wondering what those 5 are, because I'm not going to be covering them in this, those are Ysera the Bone Woman, It Lives Inside, Run Rabbit Run, Suitable Flesh, and The Outwaters. Now, I've heard pretty good things about most of those films, not really It Lives Inside, but that one just had a lot of promotion whenever it was coming out. I have decided that it's not for me, and I'm moving on to other projects and getting ready for the 2024 season. So I'm going to get us started right off with number 69. And that number belongs to Fear. What an interesting concept with some of the biggest flaws I've ever seen. You got characters that don't know how to interact with each other. It almost feels like they just chose whoever the hell showed up for the film. Yeah, man, you can play this character. Fine. But in all actuality, none of these characters have any chemistry whatsoever. The story is all over the place, and the premise just gets lost in the mix. Number 68. We have Snow Falls. This one suffers from pretty much the same exact terribleness as Fear. It just didn't rub me wrong as much. It was still a bad movie. Number 67. And a lot of people are going to probably agree with me, and then a lot of people are going to completely disagree with me on this. But number 67 for me was Skinamarink. And the reason that this is so low on my list is I don't like watching paint dry. Number 66 belongs to Children of the Corn. And if you saw this movie, you know why. Number 65 belongs to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So when this movie started and the animated portions came on, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is nice. I like this. Then the animation stopped, and I know like this. And I know I'm not going to go into a lot of specific detail about most of these movies because we got 69 of these damn things to go through. So, number 64 is The Boogeyman. What a boring slogfest. What an absolute boring movie that didn't need to be made. Number 63. The Price We Pay. This movie was weird. The ending was okay, but this movie was weird, boring, and weird. Number 62. The Haunting of Queen Mary. This movie has an awesome setting. Number 61. The Royal Hotel. Why? Number 60. The Night of the Hunted. The thing that held this movie back was that it serves no purpose. Number 59. Pet Sematary, Bloodlines. This did not need to be made. Number 58. Insidious Red Door. Yet another movie that serves no purpose and didn't need to be made. Why? Why? Number 57, Slaughterhouse. This movie is ridiculous in the worst and best of ways. It is a bad movie that is fun to watch. I don't recommend it, but you might like it. You might actually enjoy it. Number 56, Natty Knox. No. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie. Number 55, The Sacrifice Game. I think that this has potential for some people to enjoy. It just was not for me. Number 54, The Jester. This has huge potential for the future if done correctly. You might consider giving this one a watch, and just knowing that this is a movie with potential, future potential, with, if we give them some money, maybe they might make something decent. Number 53, You're Killing Me. It just doesn't have enough, just quite enough going on to make this a good film. It is an okay film, and you might consider giving it a try. Just know that it is nothing special. Number 52, Play Dead. This one is basically the same as the last one, just like You're Killing Me. But in Play Dead, I just slightly edged out the last one, but basically the same thing. It's an okay movie with some pretty good parts to it, and you might enjoy the movie. You might give it a try and just know before watching it that it's just nothing special. Number 51, Elevator Game. This is a movie that has moments of almost greatness. Just moments, like flashes. You could see it. It's almost tangible, but not quite there. Not quite there. Number 50, Follow Her. And yet another one. Almost greatness. Almost. It has the building blocks to be something. It just doesn't quite achieve what you hoped it would. But it's an okay movie. We're in that section. We went from the bad. We are in the okay section. We're getting there, guys. There's a lot of just okay movies that came out this year, so we're getting there, guys. Number 49, The Nun 2. Better than The Nun 1. Is okay. Number 48, The Pope's Exorcist. Basically The Nun 2, but a little better. A little bit boring, with some really cool CGI scenes sometimes. Catholicism. Same thing. It's the same thing, right? Number 47, Heard. Now, guys, we're finally getting into movies that I genuinely liked, but are not necessarily good movies. They're on that, like, almost tier where you're like, oh, yeah. Where you're like, I enjoy this movie. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Solid zombie movie with a small budget. I will say that the end is not good, but most endings to most media, in my opinion, are just not good. So, I mean, I'm not going to fault it too much for the ending. Number 46, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. This is just a decent, low-budget attempt at a Frankenstein movie, and It's done pretty well, and I did enjoy this movie, but it could have been better. Number 45, All Fun and Games. In all honesty, I don't even think this is like a good movie. I just had a lot of fun watching it. I just enjoyed this movie. I don't know how many people will actually enjoy this one, but I did. Number 44, Brooklyn 45. This is just a really well-made, single-room, low-budget horror film that was pretty fun to watch. I really enjoyed it. Number 43, The Exorcist Believer. I know that a lot of people have hated on this film. They're not happy at all with it. The only part that I just did not like about this movie was the ending. But I don't fault anybody for not liking most of this movie. But to be honest, I don't like the Exorcist movies. I don't like these kind of movies. I think the original Exorcist is one of the most boring, overrated movies. And I'm not going to be sorry about feeling that way. Number 42, Sympathy for the Devil. Nicolas Cage. Number 41, We Have a Ghost. It's a good family movie. Number 40, She Came from the Woods. So far on this list, this is the one that is most likely to develop some kind of cult following in the future. This was a very interesting film that has some really good parts to it, some parts that cracked me up. And yeah, this is a potential cult classic that is actually a good film, just not a great film, you know. But this is the first movie so far on the list with cult classic potential. Number 39, VHS 85. I haven't seen all of the VHS movies, but I've seen most of them, and this one just felt like it was lacking pieces to it or something. I can't put my finger on why this one just didn't feel quite as good as the others, but I absolutely loved the initial setup film on the lake and then carrying on with those characters later on in the film. That I really loved. And then the rest of it was just okay. Like it was fun to watch, but a lot of it was very forgettable. Number 38, Zom 100. This is a Japanese zombie movie that I had a lot of bias going in to watching this movie because the anime that came out this year as well is so good. It's so good. This movie was actually really decent, pretty dang good until the very end when you got the shark with legs, which is in the anime too, just done a lot better. I don't know how that could possibly translate any better into a live action film, but that wasn't good. Number 37, Attachment. I've seen this a lot higher on a lot of people's lists, and I get it. It was actually a pretty good movie. It was just a little slow for me personally. It didn't hold my attention as well as most of the movies above it. Number 36, Summoning Sylvia. This movie had me laughing a lot. It was pretty good. Number 35, Dark Harvest. So I actually read the book last year because I knew that they were making this movie. The book is the better option, but it's actually a pretty good movie. Number 34, Nightmare Radio, The Night Stalker. This is another anthology film that's pretty good. I really enjoyed this movie. I liked a lot of the short films that are in it when they're telling the stories. Yeah, it was a fun watch, and it kept me intrigued and engaged the entire time. Number 33. There's something wrong with the children. This was a really good movie. Then it gets weird. But it was still good. I enjoyed it. It wasn't like my favorite thing in the world. I've actually seen it pretty low on a lot of people's lists. I don't think it is as bad as some people are saying. But I enjoyed this movie. But the end is weird. The premise is weird. I was expecting something completely different than what we got. Yeah. Number 32. The Last Voyage of the Demeter. This movie was made by someone who was handed a checklist that said how to make a good movie. And then they went down and they checked all their little boxes. They made the least offensive vampire movie that they could make. It takes no risks and therefore gets no rewards. It could have been so much better. But they just didn't do it. Number 31. There's something in the barn. This is a really good holiday horror film, and I really loved it. It's like the knockoff Gremlins, but not bad. It's like Wish.com Gremlins, but it actually ended up not falling apart when you got it. Number 30. Clock. This movie has some really over-the-top imagery, and it was pretty damn good. Pretty damn good, solid horror movie. Number 29. Blood. Now this is how you do a better than average vampire movie. Good job. Number 28. Sick. When you make a slasher film, in my humble opinion, the thing that matters most is a memorable villain. That is the only thing that this movie failed on, but that is the most important thing. Everything else about this movie is actually pretty damn good. But how did you fail at the most important thing? Number 27. Haunted Mansion. Really good, but not as good as the original. Number 26. Influencer. I did not know what was going to happen at any time during this movie. It made me feel uncomfortable in a really good way. You should watch this. Number 25. Hell House LLC Origins. It has some really creepy parts, just like all the other Hell House movies. Better than average found footage. Very solid. You should watch this movie. Number 24. No One Will Save You. So, like, I didn't watch anything about this movie or hear anything about it. I was just like, oh, Hulu, you got a new movie. Let me see. Let me check it out. Then I get like 5 minutes into the movie. I'm like, man, they're doing this whole non-dialogue thing for a while now, huh? Get 10 minutes into the movie. Still no dialogue. I'm like, oh, okay. This is kind of interesting. It's kind of cool. Nobody's talking yet. And then nobody says a word. And it's really good. And it's creepy. But aliens really aren't that scary to me, so it just didn't make as big of an impact as it possibly could. But all in all, this was a good movie. Number 23. Cobweb. This is where I start going, okay, I really like these movies. These are my favorites so far for the year. Cobweb is the one starting it off. But the setting, having it the Halloween setting with the jack-o'-lanterns and the house, the way that the house looks and everything, and it's creepy. And you think one thing, then you think another thing, and then it's something completely different than what you thought it was. Basically, the movie's hard to guess what's going on. But it's a good movie. It's not for everybody, because I've seen it pretty low on a lot of people's lists, but I've seen it kind of high on some other people's lists. So yeah, I like this movie. Number 22, It's a Wonderful Knife. I know a lot of people are not really digging this movie, but Justin Long's performance is really good, even though they give away the identity. The identity of the killer is given away in the beginning of the movie. I think that that's okay. The parts that are not good about this movie are that they try really hard to interweave like too many storylines going on and what's going on with the characters, instead of just focusing on the fact that this is just a slasher film. Unlike Sick, this movie has a memorable villain. They did that part right. They did it right. Number 21, The Conference. This is a Swedish slasher film with over-the-top, interesting kills and a very memorable killer. So I'm here for it. Number 20, Sorry About the Demon. This is a very good comedy horror film about possession, and I haven't really heard anybody talk about this film, but I loved it. I really loved this film. It was really good. Number 19, The Blackening. I really like comedy horror. It's one of my favorite things. This movie is really, really good and extremely funny. I loved this movie. Number 18, Candyland. This is my other pick for possible cult classics. Hidden gems, if you will. This is a definite hidden gem movie, even though I'm starting to see a lot more people talk about this movie. The only thing I think holding this one back is the sheer audacity of the pornographic nature of part of this film and how much they're willing to show. I think that is the only thing that is going to hold this movie back just a bit from ever gaining too much traction in the mainstream or with a larger audience. But I do believe this is going to be on a lot of hidden gem videos. This is going to be a cult classic that a lot of people are going to have in their collection. But yeah, it's got a little bit holding it back, but what a fantastic film. This was really good. Number 17, The Puppet Man. This was almost an instant classic. There were parts of this movie that had me going, damn, this is a definite hidden gem. This is my number 3 pick for possible cult classics. But this movie, if they would have, here's my idea. Instead of being supernatural powers that this person has been granted by demons. What if this was a mutant? A person born with these abilities that is growing into them. And you didn't have any of that demon stuff holding it back and keeping the story from developing in a much more natural way, in a much more unhindered way, where you could just have this character that just is becoming unhinged with internal power instead of an external force that gave them power, and then you have to have all the stuff with their parents and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, no. That would have made this movie an instant classic if they would have just done that instead. In my opinion. Number 16. Knock at the Cabin. I love this entire cast. This movie was absolutely fantastic, but it is what it is. It is a Shyamalan film. It's a small scale film that I feel never would have had the possibility to even touch like the absolute greatness, in my opinion. I know that there are people that have this movie a lot higher on their list than I do. And I don't blame any of them. Sorry about my cat, man. I know a lot of people have this a lot higher on their list than I do, and I don't fault anyone for that. I just personally don't think that it just has that it factor, that thing that makes me go, ooh, you know. Number 15, Infinity Pool. What a weirdly fantastic film. Number 14, Five Nights at Freddy's. This was exactly what I was hoping for. I cannot wait for more. Fantastic film. If you haven't already realized, I have gotten to the point now in this list that I actually love all of these movies. Like, even if it's number 19, if it's 18, if it's 17, doesn't matter. I love all these movies. I just like my family. I love some more than others. Number 13, Megan. And of course, here we have another possible iconic villain. Can't wait for Megan 2.0. It's going to be fun. Going to be a blast. Number 12, Wrath of Becky. If you haven't seen either of the Becky movies, go watch them. You'll have a good time. Number 11, The Offering. What a fantastic movie. I don't usually like, you know, the haunting and possession movies. These are not some of my favorite movies. But this one was really good. I loved this movie. It's almost in my top 10 for the year, for a reason. Almost. And the only thing keeping it out is because I don't care for these kinds of movies. If you care for these kinds of movies, these possession ghost films, then I think this could possibly be in your top 10 if you watch this for the year. I'm not going to assure it because apparently my tastes for these types of films tend to be different from the people that truly enjoy them, because some of the ones that y'all really like, I just don't. But this movie, maybe if you're like me and you don't like these kind of movies, this is the movie for you. Check out The Offering. Coming in at number 10 is Saw X. If you told me, if you looked me square in my eyes and you said, hey, I have this movie called Saw, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I know Saw. I've seen Saw. And you're like, no, You haven't seen Saw. This is Saw. I'm going to be like, okay, let me watch it. Let me see your Saw movie that you're so proud of. Damn. If you told me you could make a Saw film with a story that touched me on another level, I would tell you to shut the hell up. You don't know what you're talking about. Saw X, guys. Saw X. Number 9. Malum. This is actually a remake of a movie called The Last Shift, and I have not seen the original, so I cannot comment on the original. But it's not that old. So basically, the guy made the original, loved the premise, got a bunch of money now, so now make good movie. Make better, I guess. I'm hoping that it's better. I mean, damn, this movie scared the crap out of me. But I'm a little baby when it comes to these kind of movies. So, yeah. I really like this movie. Great premise, great acting, great scare scenes. Holy crap. Very, very good. Number 8. Thanksgiving. Literally the last 3. Now, including Thanksgiving, the last 3 slasher films that I've mentioned in this list have had iconic villains. Villains that you go, I'm going to remember what that looks like. But sick couldn't be bothered. Anyway, Thanksgiving was amazing. I cannot wait for Thanksgiving 2. Eli Roth, you knocked it out of the park. Just next time, maybe hire somebody to look at your dialogue in your movie and just tweak it a little. Number 7, Scream 6. This could have been one of my favorite all-time Scream films. This could have been in the top 2, maybe even number 1. And I don't usually judge movies based on their ending. But when you're this close to greatness and you mess it up at the end, and really, whenever you have an ending that is kind of similar to an older Scream film, it's whatever. But when the characters have zero danger and I feel like nothing could happen to any of them, we have a problem. We have a real problem on our hands. And that is the reason that this did not get number 1. Number 6, Renfield. Talk about a damn good vampire movie. Now, this isn't everybody's cup of tea, and like I said earlier, I love comedy horror. It's one of my favorite things. So, Renfield, I'm all for it. I want more. I loved this movie. Nicolas Cage. And now, getting into my top 5, we have at number 5, Totally Killer. Back to the Future meets slasher. Yes, please. Yes, please. And it's fantastic. It is absolutely wonderful. And yeah, this guy knows how to do his time travel movies. Time travel horror movies. It's going to be its own genre soon. Now we're getting into the nitty gritty. The next 4, there's like almost zero movement between all four of these films. They're that good. They're that good, people. And this was painstaking for me. This hurt my heart. Number 4, When Evil Lurks. This is an Argentinian demonic possession, weird, almost zombie-like film, but with demon-possessed people instead of zombies. And this movie doesn't hold back a thing. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe. A lot of people are going to be 100% turned off by that. I was not. I found this to be grotesquely amazing. Number 3, Beau is Afraid. I come into this movie with an extremely biased opinion, and it's not because of his other films. This movie, it actually felt very personal to me. I almost didn't rank this movie, but this was a very personal, very emotional watch for me. I don't think this movie is for everybody. It is a very strange film. But my childhood had a lot to do with how I feel about this movie. So for me, this is a number 3. Regardless, you could have this as your dead last film and I would understand, because of how out there and how weird this movie can be. Number 2, Talk to Me. Oh my God. Spiritual possession as a party game. That right there is how you make a name for yourself. Holy crap, this movie was amazing. I absolutely loved this movie. And when I say that almost no media has good endings to them, it's difficult. It's hard. I get it. I get it. It is hard to make a good ending. This movie has one of the most perfect endings I've ever seen. And coming in at number 1, the most anticipated, the most amazing horror film released in 2023. We have Evil Dead Rise. I have come back to this movie multiple times since its release and watched it, and I have enjoyed it the same every single time. I guess it's just the nature of the Evil Dead franchise. It makes you feel a certain way when you watch it, and that certain way is complete enjoyment. At least for me. At least for me. But anyway, guys, that is my ranking video for all of the 2023 released horror films that I watched this year. And get ready, because 2024 is coming up. I'm going to get back on that bandwagon and start doing movie reviews and more ranking videos. So stay tuned, and if you would, just hit that little subscribe button and then a little notification button over there. And you and me can have conversations for days. That's all I want. I want a conversation. This very person watching right now. I want a conversation with you. I want to know what you like, what you don't like. I want to have arguments. I want it all. So just hit the little button. Anyway, y'all have a good night, and I'll see you next time.